What if I told you a player who had been cut from 4 teams just one season ago was now one of the most sought-after free agents for the summer of 2020?
What? You
gotta love the NBA, right? One team is going to be getting a good one, but who could it be and what's it gonna cost? In today's video, I'll tell you how Christian Wood went from undrafted player who was in tears on draft night to one of the better young big men in the league. And you're going to hear where I think he's going to sign this offseason and how much his new contract will be. What's up, guys? This is Troy, host of the Half Court Report YouTube channel. Can you believe this? Christian Wood couldn't even get minutes over Jahlil Okafor or Spencer Hawes, and now the dude is about to make bank. He is living the dream. But hey, we're going to get into all of that in today's video, but first, if it's your first time here, do consider subscribing to this channel. It's been blowing up lately, near 300 subscribers. That's insane. We're going to be at 1K before you know it, so be first in line. In honor of Christian Wood's jersey number, we're going for
35 likes
on today's video, and also stick around to the very end for news on the subscriber giveaway winner. You can also follow me on Twitter at Half Court Report. Let's begin by getting a little bit of background on who Christian Wood is. So he was a top 100 recruit coming out of UNLV a few years ago. He left there after his sophomore season. The summer leading up to the draft, he was drawing comparisons to guys like John Henson, a really tall, skinny forward who could maybe play a little bit of center, measured out about 6'10", 6'11", with a huge 7'3" wingspan. So this was a guy who had tons of potential, but really one of those guys who had to prove that he belonged. One of those guys who still needed to put it all together and just contribute and be a consistent player while he was on the floor. He was athletic, he could run the floor, he could score inside, he could post up a little bit, he had that defensive potential as a shot blocker, also even a developing three-point shot, so he had a little bit of range. Somewhat of a project, but teams were intrigued because there was still a lot of room for growth and kind of a boom or bust type of prospect. Also interesting, he came into college when he was 17 years old, so he was very young for his draft class. There was talk that he could even be a lottery pick. Then that went down to, okay, he'll be somewhere in the first round. That ended up him not getting drafted at all, and we all remember this photo of him on draft night where he was just in tears getting consoled by the people around him. So sad. What I remember is thinking this guy should have stayed in school. He's going to have to be going overseas. He's going to have to be going to the G League. He's probably not ever going to make it into the NBA. Just one of hundreds of stories that we get every year. If you'll recall, this was the draft in 2015 that included in the top 5 picks Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Jahlil Okafor, Kristaps Porzingis, and Mario Hezonja. So he would definitely go above at least Hezonja, probably even Okafor if we're doing that draft again today. Other players who were drafted that year, Devin Booker, Miles Turner. So yeah, I think he's definitely in top 10 if you have to do that over again. So even though he was undrafted, lucky for him, he gets picked up by the Sixers, and this is back when Sam Hinkie was still in charge. So, he was always trying to find those diamonds in the rough. He was constantly shuffled back his first year in between the Sixers D-League team in Delaware and also the main roster in Philly. During the season, he was cut, he was re-signed, they cut him again, gave him a 10-day contract, so he was being shuffled around all over the place. He ended up only playing 17 games for the Sixers, about 8.5 minutes per game, 3.5 points, 2.2 rebounds. His per 36-minute numbers were actually pretty good, 15 and 9 with 2 blocks. Keep in mind though, this was for a terrible Sixers team. They only won 10 games that entire season. So Wood couldn't even get minutes on that team. It did not bode well for him. After the season, Sam Hinkie, he leaves the team. So after that, he's not really in the Sixers' plans anymore. On a side note, when is an owner gonna take a chance on Sam Hinkie? I miss this guy in the NBA. For his second year in the league, basically the same thing. This time he's playing for Charlotte, but Same number of games played for the most part, same number of points, same rebound averages. Charlotte, also a terrible team, finished 11th in the Eastern Conference that year, still can't get minutes. So by what would have been his third year in the league, the 2017-2018 season, nobody picks him up. He is out of the league. And it makes sense, because if he can't crack the rotation for a bad Sixers team and a bad Charlotte team, then it's obvious he can't cut it in the league, right? The year after that, which was last season, he's back in the NBA for a really good Bucks team that ended up winning 60 games. So obviously he's not going to be in the rotation for them. Only plays 13 games, really didn't show a ton as far as the stat sheet is concerned. He's waived shortly before the season ends so they can sign Tim Frazier, I believe, for their playoff run. He ends up with the Pelicans, and he plays with them for the last 8 games. This actually works out well, because this is back when Anthony Davis was wanting his trade to the Lakers. So he was either sitting out or he wasn't playing a ton of minutes. So that opens up a chance for Christian Wood to play, and he really takes advantage of it. Averages 23 minutes a game, 17 points, 8 rebounds a game, a block a game, 30% from 3, so not that great, but he is showing improvement and he is showing a willingness to step out a little bit. 57% overall from the field, and by this point, he's still only 23 years old. So he's thinking, all right, well, I'll get picked up by the Pelicans. Not so fast, because they make the Anthony Davis trade, and they get so many players back in that trade, they end up having to cut a lot of guys from their roster. So they end up waiving Christian Wood. If you're keeping count, now 4 teams that have cut Christian Wood. So now we're into the current season, and he's battling for a spot in training camp with the Detroit Pistons. It's going to come down between him and Joe Johnson, who by this point is like 40 years old and should not even be playing in the NBA. And Christian Wood gets the spot, and not only that, he actually makes it into the rotation for the Pistons. Then after the Andre Drummond trade back in February, his minutes and his averages go way up. He's averaging 22 points, 10 rebounds, 54% field goal shooting, 37% from 3. He's shown that when he gets minutes, he's going to produce. And it's not just empty stats. These are stats that help contribute to winning. So he's going into the summer of 2020 as an unrestricted free agent. The question is, where's he going to sign and how much is he going to sign for? I think Christian Wood is going to get on the low end 3 years, $40 million, or on the high end 3 years at $50 million. Maybe a 4th year player option in there as well. The main teams that would have the space to sign Christian Wood to the type of contract that he wants and deserves would be the Miami Heat, Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, New York Knicks, or re-signing with the Detroit Pistons. I'm going to knock the Heat out right away because they're going to wait for the summer of 2021 and that free agency class, which includes players like Giannis, Rudy Gobert, maybe Anthony Davis, maybe Kawhi. They're not going to tie up any of their money on players like Christian Wood right now. Atlanta is also out. They've got John Collins and Clint Capella up front. They've also got guys who are coming up for extensions over the next couple of years. I don't see Atlanta as a destination. Charlotte is likely out. They're in a rebuilding mode right now. They need to be patient with their cap space. I don't see Christian Wood wanting to go to a Charlotte team that's just as bad or equally as bad as the team he's leaving, and I don't see the Hornets making a bid for him. The New York Knicks are an interesting option, and I've seen lots of Knicks fans in my comments on some Knicks videos that I was doing talking about how much they want Christian Wood in free agency. So if this were to happen, I think there's several routes that they could go. So they have team options on Bobby Portis, Wayne Ellington, and Elfrid Payton for next year. I don't think it would be wise to pick up any of those options if you're wanting to make a splash in free agency. One thing with Christian Wood, they could pay him the salary they want after that. He's also in a position of need for them. He could pair up nicely with Mitchell Robinson, especially if they get a point guard in the draft, and you've got your new point guard, whether it's LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, Killian Hayes, what have you. Pair with RJ Barrett, then you have Christian Wood and Mitchell Robinson as a nice, solid young core. That's the type of winning move that the Knicks need to make, especially with this new front office that they've had. I've had so many Knicks fans in the comments saying to me, we need to get Christian Wood. Why didn't you put Christian Wood in your video about potential free agents the Knicks could get? Hate to break it to you, but I do not think he's a realistic free agent, and I'll tell you why. Detroit is going to keep him, and they're going to keep him at all costs. For one, they've invested way too much in Christian Wood already. They're not just going to let him walk, especially to somebody in their own conference. They like how he can play not only with Demboya, they like how he could play with Blake, assuming he comes back relatively healthy. They also gave him a chance in the league. He'd already been cut by 4 teams. If, for instance, the Knicks were to offer $20 million a year, then yeah, I could see Christian Wood leaving Detroit and going to the Knicks, because loyalty, everybody has a price, right? But overpaying is not something the Knicks would want to do in their current situation, and overpaying is the only way it's going to happen. You don't want to tie up your cap at $20 million a year for the next 3-4 years for a guy who ends up not living up to his contract. We've seen that a million times before with the Knicks and with other teams. So do you really want to invest that much in a guy who's still relatively unproven? That's the big question. Tell me in the comments what you think of Christian Wood. Where do you think he'll be playing his next several years in the league? If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. We're going for 35 likes on this video in honor of Christian Wood's jersey number. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Also, congrats to our subscriber giveaway winner, Ethan Visgan. Ethan, I'm going to contact you about your prize. Thanks everybody for watching today. This is Troy with the Half Court Report, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, one more thing. Here's some more videos to check out on the Half Court Report channel. I hope you like them, and thanks for watching.